Welcome to the Overcoming Mediocrity podcast, where today's top influencers and entrepreneurs on the rise share empowering stories and ninja tips to become the fuel that ignites a positive change in your life. Our guests don't simply coast through life. They don't let difficult situations stop them. They set big goals, keep their eyes on the prize, and they're joining us today to share insider secrets you can use right now to step into your power and live your purpose. Now, here's your host, Christy Ruffino.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Overcoming Mediocrity podcast. This is Christy Ruffino, the host of the show, and I'm really excited to introduce you all today to, I want to say my friend, because we can't say we're friends. We vacation together.
Yes.
Ann Hession. Welcome, Ann.
I'm so excited to be here too. And yes, it was very fun being
Oh my gosh.
with you and our whole group of friends. It was an amazing, amazing trip.
It was an amazing trip. I learned so much and I grew so much, and I love just getting to know other professionals in a setting like that, because it expands me as well as it allows me to serve others too and have fun, right? Have fun together.
Yeah, it's one thing to be like masterminding and learning, in the conference room. It's another thing when you get to do it in the hot tub,
yes,
on the beach, at the swim up bar, at the pool.
Whale watching.
A whole different way of expanding and growing.
Exactly. Experiences, right? Life's all about memories. And when we can make amazing memories like that with other pretty fun people, it's just really cool. So yes, my friend Ann Hession. Welcome, Ann. And so I know a little bit about Ann, but I want you all to know a little bit about her. So I am going to just read a short little intro. So Ann Hession is a heart-centered sales expert who helps healers and solopreneurs who have amazing gifts for the world, but are allergic to sales and selling. As a medical intuitive and energy healer with over 30 years of experience in transformational healing, and a sales expert who's personally sold millions of dollars of products and services, she's uniquely qualified to help heart-based business owners transform their relationship to sales so they can confidently and easily grow their business without ever feeling fake, pushy, or salesy. And I have to tell you, Ann, your most recent story, I share it a lot with my clients, because I have learned over the years the power of collaboration. I mean, I started a women's networking organization 20 years ago almost to help women, or help me grow my business through uniting with other women. And what you did recently with your launch, and how you shared what you were doing and how you were almost at your goal and everybody came around you and helped you, and you were able to achieve your 6-figure launch of your amazing product, and you exceeded it. And so you know your stuff. You do.
And it really is true. Nobody does it on their own. There's no such thing as the self-made person. And that's not to in any way, downplay all of the hard work that we put in, right? But we all do it with help and support, everybody. And also, by the way, why would you want to do it on your own?
I know. But, there's a lot of, A-type personality people out there that don't want to bring in help because nobody can do it like they do it. And they just put their head down and they plow through, but then they end up by clogging their own funnel, right? They're the ones that's causing the biggest challenge in their own business. Yeah. And, that's true with outsourcing, but it's also true with marketing and sharing, and you're building your business through referrals. And, that's
totally.
what
we're all the single biggest limitation on our own business.
Yes.
No two ways about it.
Yes. So I like to always start the interview with your story, because you're in this specific field right now. You have a mission right now to help heart-centered solopreneurs for a reason. And it's your story that brought you here. So why are you on this path right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to talk about it. So I will actually tell you like a really specific story, right? So I think it was 2007. It's July, gorgeous hot summer day. And my husband and my 2 daughters and I were driving back home to Rhode Island from my family reunion in Western Massachusetts at the family farm where my grandfather grew up, right? And we've had this reunion almost every year since the late 50s. So we're driving home, and you're just that sort of tired out in the sun with people I've known my whole life day, we're just driving home, and we realize that we're getting low on gas and we don't have enough to get home. So we pull into a gas station and convenience store to get some gas, not to fill up. We don't have enough money to fill up, right? Probably a lot of you listening have been there at some point in your life, right?
Yeah.
And so we're getting the gas, and then our two girls, right? They peep up from the back. If you have kids, you know what happened next, right? Mommy, I'm hungry. Mommy, I'm hungry now. Can I get a snack? Will you get us something? Can you get us something? Right? And I'm like, I can't. There's like nothing in my purse. There's barely enough in the account to, we're like careful not to overdraw the account at the pump, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I'm hungry, Mommy. I'm hungry now. Right? So, and I had to say no. And I'm sorry, guys. You're just gonna have to wait till we get home. Now, there's food at home, and my kids get fed that night. But the entire rest of the way home, all I can think is, I just had to choose between getting gas and feeding my kids.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
One of those moments.
Yeah.
And it just made me realize that I was trying to make a living as a coach at the time. And clearly I was failing, at least in the sense of having enough money to get gas and feed my kids. Right. And I just realized it wasn't enough, and it wasn't ever going to be enough, that I was just, I was good at that, and that I, really wanted to succeed. Like, that wasn't working. And none of that was going to work if I couldn't sell what I did. At the time, I really hated sales. It made me nauseous. Like most sort of heart-centered people, most healers and coaches, allergic, right? Allergic to sales.
Yes.
But I didn't want to give up on doing the work that I really love to do. So I went deep, right? And I was like, I've overcome other things in my life. I can do this. So, want to know what I did?
Yes, of course.
I went and got a sales job.
Ooh.
A 100% commission only sales job. And I did that training they gave me, like my life depended on it.
Yeah.
And I started to realize it was something that I could actually do, and I could do it pretty well. And I started to discover there are things I liked about it. Like, I don't know if any of you guys listening, but like, if you like to help people solve problems, guess what? That's like a huge part of sales. Right?
It is.
Listening to people, getting what they really need, right? That's a huge part of sales. So that was kind of the start. And then I got another sales job.
So let me ask you though, did you get a sales job because you knew you needed to improve your sales skills, or because you saw that you could make money? Like, you're like, oh, this is an opportunity to make money.
I needed to make money.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do it in a way that would give me the skills I needed so that I could have money, right?
Yeah.
So it was like, let me go learn, let me get paid to get trained.
So you recognize that was one of your challenges, is sales. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs out there, we realize that, myself included, the sales conversation is not something I look forward to, or I didn't look forward to it because I didn't understand it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? You need to look, the best salespeople in the world have done a ton of training.
Yes.
Right? It isn't magic. It's not something that you're just born with, right? I mean, sure, there can be some innate skills, but no one succeeds really well in sales without at least some training. And most people need a lot of training. So it's like, well, let me go get trained. I'm going to get paid to get trained to do something that's going to help me do what I really want to do. Right. And then I got another job that was much more like high pressure. Like, I literally remember throwing up during the hiring process.
Oh my gosh, no way.
But I made it, and I became one of their best salespeople. It was for it was this company called Business Breakthroughs International, which was owned by Chet Holmes and Tony Robbins.
Okay.
And I learned a lot of really great things. I also learned some things that I didn't like, right? So if any of you are just listening, and you've probably done some sales training at some point, Christy, right? So you may recognize this. Most sales training out there in the world, my experience is that most of it is what I like to call high testosterone. It's right. It's just a lot of male energy. The traditional language of sales is very male. It's like overcome objections. And I was like, overcome them? How about just like address them?
Right. Exactly.
Right? No, overcome them. Always be closing, all this stuff. It has a lot of male energy. The male energy is wonderful. However, it doesn't work for healers, coaches, soulpreneurs, people who are, really coming, their business is coming from what they feel their real purpose.
Yeah.
That male energy. So whether they're
and women, I mean, it doesn't always work with women. Yeah,
exactly. And that male energy doesn't work. But what I discovered was that it doesn't, sales doesn't have to be that way. And I think that's a lot of the well, you may not have the language for it. Oh, it's very male. Like people resonate, people get that when I say it, right? And you realize that's kind of the preconception we have about sales, is that sales is always about pushy. It's
pushy, right?
About
overpowering and
right. Yeah. I would say that, and again, I'm not knocking male energy. I have a lot of male energy myself, and I love male energy. It's just that it's not a match. It's not what works for people like me, right?
Yeah, because nobody wants to be sold to, right?
Yeah.
They want their needs met. They want their problem solved. They want to be heard.
Yeah. And the male energy is kind of fundamentally about the transaction, whereas female energy is fundamentally about the relationship. So one of the ways that I would sort of summarize what heart-centered sales is, which is what I've, evolved into my own way of doing heart-centered, soulful sales. And that's what I teach people. One way I could bottom line what that means is that heart-centered, soulful sales is always about putting the relationship before the transaction.
Right.
And that's what makes it different. And that's what makes it work for healers and coaches and people, who are coming. That's where they're coming from.
So I love your story because I know so many people, well, not everybody, of course, but everybody at some point has struggled, right? Not everybody's gone through this roller coaster ride of perfection. But for you to be in a position where you were able to reflect on the fact that you had to make a decision between food in your kids' bellies and gas.
Yeah.
And you made the decision that was logical because you had to get home, but it's still in your heart didn't sit well.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can still picture that, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, right. Those moments, they stay with you.
Yeah. Wow. So I didn't know that story, and thank you for sharing that. And so anybody that's listening, if you feel allergic to selling, if you don't like to be pushy or salesy, and you just want to help your clients solve their problem, you want to provide a solution for them, you want to listen, you want to be able to sell in a way that's going to be a win-win for both of you. Stay tuned, because we'll be right back, and Ann is going to share some of her ninja tips with us. So hang on, everybody. We'll be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by the Overcoming Mediocrity Project. Are you ready to share your story in a life-changing book with other success-driven women? Then what if you could use that book to get speaking gigs, podcast interviews, and possibly a new client or two? Wouldn't that be great? Well, watch out, chicken soup. Here comes Overcoming Mediocrity. Our proven system can transform your struggle story into a powerful signature message, and then as one chapter in an Amazon best-selling book. Our process is simple and economical, and it will bring a lot of eyeballs on you, your business, and your big message to the world. We welcome you to apply to join our project. Just visit us at overcomingmediocrity.org and click on the apply button at the top of the page. We'll see you soon. Well, welcome back, everybody. This is Christy and Ann, and we're having a conversation about soulful selling. And I know we talked already about the male energy that people bring to selling, and the female energy. and women in general, but you've niched your audience down, your ideal client. Well, you could probably, this training can help everybody, but I know you've niched it down to heart-centered solopreneurs. Why do you love, or the healers? So why have you niched it down to that?
Well, it's partly that I find that's who kept coming to me.
Okay.
So certainly, certainly coaches, and I would say generally heart-centered, entrepreneurs and soulpreneurs, but healers in particular is who just kept showing up. And I think it's partly because I am one, right? So
Yes.
I'm a medical intuitive, I'm an energy healer. And I sometimes joke like I'm kind of a unicorn because I'm an energy healer. I've got all the woo-woo going on, right? Like super, super woo-woo. And I also understand sales, and I've been very successful in sales. Those don't go together very often.
It's a very odd paradigm, right? It's
So, but that is sort of my secret sauce. And I literally did build a 6-figure energy healing practice. There are very few people who can say that, right? And it's, there is no way I would have been able to do that if I didn't have the sales skills, right? It really wasn't because I had this amazing marketing. I didn't even, when I did that, and I went from, a few $100s a month to 6 figures in just a little over a year. Okay.
Wow. And
it wasn't because I had like, marketing funnels going. I didn't, it wasn't because it was knowing how to talk to people about what I do and ask questions and find out what they need and offer a solution.
Yeah, I've had a lot of conversations. I met a lot of healers who do not have 6-figure businesses. And
I met a lot who don't have 5-figure businesses.
Yeah. And so why do you think that is?
Well, how much time do we have? There's a lot, right?
But so this goes into the conversation around selling, right?
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of it is they're missing this. I will say this till the day I die. The single most important, if you actually want to have a business, the most important skill you need is sales. That if you need it more than you need marketing, you need it more than you need organization, you need more, because if you can't, it's the only part of your business where you make money. And
you can't outsource that. And I've had people.
Once you have a close to $1 million business, then it might make sense to hire salespeople for you, right? But it doesn't make sense to do that when you're just getting started, or even pretty far along in your business. And you have to, it's something you have to do yourself. What I want people to know is it doesn't have to be scary, gross, yucky, and all those things you think it is. It can be actually very fun and connecting and soulful, right?
And rewarding, right?
It's incredibly rewarding. I've had sales conversations with people where we're both crying by the end of it because we're so connected, So it doesn't have to be that way. But so that's one big reason is that they don't have the skills because they don't understand that these are skills that you can just learn. You can learn heart-centered sales. Anyone can if you're just willing to put in the time. But it's also you just have to do that if you want to have a real business. It is not something you can skip over.
Yeah. Well, can I ask you though, because I think a lot of people think that, well, if I'm really good at what I do, I'm going to make money at it. And they don't want to charge, or they feel that they shouldn't charge. But if you don't charge, you can't keep helping people. And there's like this challenge that I think a lot of heart-centered entrepreneurs have, whether they're healers or not, that charging, like, we have this gift, we should just be able to help the world and serve the world. And it's not about money. And even though it's not about money, you need the money to keep doing it. And so
you do, right? And in healers in particular, there is this belief of like, oh, I have like a gift and it's not right for me to charge for it. I have some people where they actually think it's spiritually wrong, right? And look at that. And if that's someone's, I'm not going to tell someone if it's a spiritual belief that's wrong, that's your spiritual belief. And I will say, if we sort of bring that out into the light of day and look at it a bit, like the question is like, well, what are you here to do, right? If you're here to help a lot of people and make a big difference, if you don't charge for what you do, then you can't help very many people because you need to spend most of your time doing something else to support yourself. I mean, unless you happen to be independently wealthy, right? So if you don't charge for it, you can't do very much and you can't have any impact. Whereas if you charge for it, you get the support to build a real business, you can support yourself and help a lot of people. So it doesn't like hold water for me that
Yep.
I do love, like, what's wrong, but it's a belief. So there's a lot of, so part of it is like not having the skills, right? But it's also, there's a lot of, as you were getting into, a lot of these limiting beliefs. A lot of healers and coaches, heart-centered, soulful people have a lot, there's a lot of self-doubt, thinking that they're not good enough, thinking that they don't deserve it, thinking it, always putting everybody else first and not putting
Yes.
themselves and their vision first, feeling like it's wrong to do that. Like I have to say, healers in particular, you know, we have many conversations about this. They're way more comfortable supporting everybody else around them than they are ever letting anybody support or help, right? So there's a lot that goes into why they start. We could talk for, it's probably 6 hours about all the different reasons why it's challenging, but those are some of the biggest ones.
Okay. Well, that makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring that out because I know that a lot of women, I work with women, so I'm not specifically in the healer space, but I know a lot of women have this conversation with themselves around selling and charging and all of that.
Yes,
and
they really struggle with it. I have people who
yeah.
are like, well, I've had my healing practice for 3 years now, and you know, I do a lot of sessions and I get paid for a few, kind of thing. And it's just like, it's just not a business, right?
Yeah.
You know, and I, by the way, I'm never, I'm never about saying that you can't work on people for free. We've all done what we do for people for free at times.
Absolutely.
And it felt absolutely right. It felt good. It was, you didn't regret it in any way. It just was like, you just were moved to offer. I have no problem with that. I do that myself. So I don't want anyone to think I'm saying it's always, you should always charge. But it's about finding, I would imagine, I was listening, you probably also have been times when you worked on people for free and you really wished you hadn't. It didn't feel right. It didn't feel good. You felt like you were letting yourself down. You felt unappreciated, I think. And that's what I want to shift, right? So that you actually can charge something that you feel really, really good about. Pricing is a whole other thing. Like I have a whole training just on that, how people struggle with, because most really undercharge.
Yes.
Well.
And if you don't charge, I have 2 points I want to bring into this, because if you don't charge, then you're not necessarily putting value on the results that person wants, right? Like it's basically they're investing in themselves. They're not investing in you. Yes. And are they not worth it?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It really is. Right.
Yeah. 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 So, and then I had another point, but of course it's already out of my head. That's okay. I'm sure it'll pop back up.
Well, I'll throw in one that's kind of related to that. Another thing I think is that people get very caught up in the idea that they're being paid for their time and they feel like it's wrong to charge. Well, if it only takes me half an hour, how can I charge, like $100 for that? That just seems wrong, right? Or kind of whatever the numbers are for them, right?
Right.
And one of the things I really want people to get is that you're not being paid for your time. Like, I mean, yes, it takes a certain amount of time for you to do what you do, but you're not being paid for your time. You're being paid for the value that you bring.
Yeah.
And so for many people, it's like you're being paid. I want you to get that what you're being paid for is maybe the 10, 20, 30 years of experience that you have,
exactly,
all of the trainings and certifications that you went and did, the people that that you studied from and learned from, all the people you worked with and all the things you learned from before, you're being paid for that, not just for half an hour of your time.
Well, if you look at a doctor, right, when they go through 10 years of training to be a brain surgeon, they could go in and do brain surgery in an hour and make however much money,
or whatever. It's like you're not being paid for just the gift. It's
correct.
You're being paid for all of the effort, all the training, all the experience, all the wisdom that you've gained along the way, which feeds into and informs the work that you do.
Yes, absolutely. And then the other point did pop back in my head, because when you're in a place where you have money flowing, right? You have the energy coming to you. Everything is kind of in alignment and you feel really good. People are charging, you're giving them great results. That does give you the freedom to now do more things for free when that need arises.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So you're doing it with an open heart, not thinking, oh my gosh, I'm giving this for free, but I can't pay my electric bill.
Exactly. It's completely different energy. It is. Coming from 100%.
It is perfect. All right. So I have another question because I know, and I'm not sure how this is going to go. So I may be throwing, oh no, I do know how this is going to go because you have this amazing process about the tell me more trap.
Yes.
And for me, being in the networking space for years and having people, when it comes time to talk about what they do, it's almost as if they've never been asked that question before, right? Like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? Or you're sitting there, oh my gosh, what are they going to ask me? Oh my gosh, I don't want them to ask me. Can I go to the bathroom now? So this whole thing, when people come to you and say, what do you do? It brings up this elevator pitch dynamic, like, how am I going to respond? But then we've got to be able to respond in a way that is received well. And that's, I think, where people struggle, is because so many people vomit, right? Like vomit out what they do, and they get, everybody's eyes, and their eyes glaze over, and you're like, all right, when is this person going to be done talking? But you have this whole process, right, about how to be able to approach this question. Yes, I got another page of notes ready to go.
So this is what I call the tell me more trap. Okay. And this, by the way, this is specifically for like a one-on-one conversations, right? So whether someone reached out to you, like maybe they were a referral, they found you online or whatever, and they're like, hey, I want to find out more about what you do, how it works, or a networking event, right? Or you just met them at a party and you start talking and you end up talking a little bit about what you do. There can be this point where they ask you to tell them more, essentially, right? It might be, oh, tell me more about that. It might be just like, oh, that's interesting. How did you get into that? Or how does that work? Right. But any of those things you see, they're inviting you to tell them more, which is why I call it the tell me more trap. So it's a trap that the other person unwittingly sets for you. They wouldn't if they, because they get caught in it too, right? And we've all done this. We've all been on both sides, as you were saying.
Yes.
Because the most common thing that happens then is that because they just asked us to tell them more. So what do?
Tell them more.
We start to tell them more, which is usually the worst thing to do, right? So here's why I say that's the worst thing to do, because it sounds like, well, they asked me, why I should just start telling them more. The reason just jumping in and starting to tell them more is the worst thing you can do, is because you don't know why they asked. You get that? You don't know if they're just being polite. You don't know if their second cousin is, just happened to mention to them that they were thinking of doing that. And so they're like, oh, I might want to just have a conversation about this. You don't know if they're thinking of referring someone to you. You don't know if they're thinking that might be interesting for them. You have no idea why they asked, right?
Yes.
So if you, and here's the thing about us healers and coaches and stuff, we love what we do, right? We love it. We could geek out on it for hours.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And they don't want that.
Right. Exactly.
Our brain's going, oh my God, they're interested. It's like, yeah, interested in what? You need to find that out first. So here's the writer downer. Okay. When someone says like, oh, tell me more about that, or tell me how that works. What you want to say is some version of this. Okay. And seriously, write this down. I'd love to, but first let me ask what interests you about that.
Nice.
Okay. Can you see just that? Like if there's nothing else you change and you just do that. Now, instead of killing the conversation before it even got started by fire hosing them with information you don't know if they want, which is what most people are doing.
Yes.
Instead, you're making it about them.
Right.
And you're going to find out why they asked, why they're interested. Okay. And then just it's mostly like eventually you will tell them some more. But they don't actually want to know how it works. Or even if they say, tell me how that works, they don't actually want to know how it works. Okay. They just want to know. Well, like I said, it could be something like they have a potential person to connect you with or something. Yeah. But if they are at all interested, what they really just want to know is could it help them?
Right. So what is everybody's statement?
Yeah. I was going to say, how can you possibly answer that, which is their real concern, without finding out what they're dealing with and why they're interested? So yeah. Literally. Now there's actually often five, sometimes 6 steps to fully handle the tell me more trap.
Okay.
But the first one is the most important one, which is that. So I'd love to tell you more, but tell me what got your attention or what,
Yeah.
what interests you.
So I liken this to somebody shared at one point this visualization of what would be somebody's favorite radio station? It's WIIFM. What's in it for me? So it's almost as if you're kind of like dialing in this radio station so we can get on the channel that they want to hear, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm totally stealing that.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Well, I stole it from somebody else. So Louis Sharp, Louis, if you're listening, we're all stealing your radio station little visualization there. So there's many more steps, and I'm assuming you have a really great resource to help with this. Is it?
I do. So
Okay.
I'd love to share this. So I have a great resource, which you're going to have the link to from Christy. It's called Sales Conversation Secrets, Heart-Centered Sales Made Simple. And it is all about this specific thing, the Tell Me More track. The reason that I created this and just make this available is because can you get that not understanding how to handle the Tell Me More trap? It just kills your potential sales conversation before it even starts, right? Before it even starts.
Absolutely, yeah.
Their eyes are glazing. And this is what happens, right? People start talking, and then you see their eyes are kind of glazing over, but you're like, you kind of keep talking. You're like, why am I still talking? And you don't know how to, right? It's like we've all been there on both sides of it. So it allows you to actually turn it into the kind of conversation that you want to have that's about them and what they're dealing with and what they might be interested in. And the Sales Conversation Secrets training download will walk you through all the way through exactly how to handle that.
Yay, I love that. Awesome. Well, if you want the Sales Conversation Secrets, we will have the link in the show notes below. And if you want to connect with Ann, if you're a heart-centered entrepreneur, you're a healer. I know Ann has a lot of different programs that she supports her clients with.
I do.
And she's amazing. So, and I want to thank you, Ann, for being on the show. I know I had fun and I learned a lot, and I can't wait to get your download because this is something that I didn't even know you had. So I'm going to make sure I grab that right away.
I think you'll find it super helpful. People tell me all the time, they're like, oh my God, I've never seen it this way. It's so clear, right?
Yeah.
And that you recognize yourself in it, like, oh, I'm doing that. And it's just really like takes the whole thing apart. And then it makes so much more sense.
Wow. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you. And I want to thank you for joining us today. And I want to thank the audience for being with us. If you learned anything from Ann, I encourage you to share it with somebody you know, because we always learn more by sharing that wisdom with others. And of course, if you like our show, please go to whatever platform you listen and give us a review, give us a rating, do whatever you can to show us some love, because the more you support us, the more we're able to support you by bringing on incredible guests like Ann. So thanks, everybody. And thanks, Ann.
You're welcome. This was very fun. I enjoyed it.
It was.
Thanks for listening to the Overcoming Mediocrity podcast, where we believe that everyone can have the business and life of their dreams once they've learned the art of mastering their story. Mastering our stories is the key to everything we want in life. Our stories can either hold us back or they can propel us to new heights. We can choose. You can choose. Choose to overcome mediocrity with us. Let's achieve greatness together. To learn more, visit www.overcomingmediocrity.org. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast.